Hello and welcome to Dog Show Mentor. I'm Lee Whittier, founder, host, mindset coach, and mentor. And I'm here for owner handlers. And tonight we're here to talk about the Dog Show Mentor system of Hallmarks and how we approach it here. Our core values are confidentiality, excellence, community, integrity, transparency, and grit. And remember to have fun with your dog and make sure your dog has fun with you. All right, I can see Kaylee now. And just FYI, we do have an app and everybody loves it and uses it. And it does provide notifications for things like what we're doing tonight. Tomorrow night, we have our premium Dog Show Mentor meeting. Don't go running off without a plan. First things first. And how does this apply tonight? Well, this applies to everything in dog shows and in life. And you should think about how tonight you're planning to use your dog's hallmarks to present your dog better in the ring. Okay. So by now, you know that understanding your standard helps you. I know everybody here, and I'm really sorry that I can't see all of you, but I know that you're here because I'm finding you in the list. So that's a good thing. I see some people that I can't actually see. So I mean, all of you are dog people, and you know that understanding your standard helps you, but how? How does that help you in the ring? So I'm going to stop here and pause and ask you, put in the chat. Usually we start with your name and where you're from and your breed. And thank you, Lori Sluki and Ibethan Hounds. I love that. I love both of those breeds. Love my sight hounds. But how do you think that understanding your standard helps you show your dog? Lori says Greater Swiss. Michael has American Staffordshire Terriers. I know that. Anybody else? Marianne has Piers. Okay, good. Tibetan Spaniels, right? Okay. How does understanding your standard help you in the ring? Nobody knows. Okay, well, that's why we're here tonight. Because how many times have you heard or you said, I don't understand what the judges see in that dog? Right? How many of us? You've never said that? I know some of you have said this. I don't understand. Michael, I know you and I have had conversations like that. Yes. And Lori, I know we have. So I don't understand what judges see in that dog. And so we're going to explore this a little bit tonight about what judges see in different dogs. And we're not going to beat anybody up. But week after week, you get beat, right? And you're like, I don't get it. What are the judges see in that other dog? Because you don't know why, right? You don't know why. You think, well, maybe I need a professional handler. Should I get a handler? I mean, honest, Scott, I get this question a lot. Should I get a handler? Or do I need handling classes? Or what can I do better? That's a big one. And you're going to go 50-50 on that question with judges. Some judges are going to really talk to you and tell you what you could do better. But I'm here to tell you, it's really up to you to figure out what you could do better before you get in the ring. Don't go in the ring and spend your $37 and come out and go, I don't get it. You're supposed to get it. You think the professional handlers go and say, what could I do better? They don't do that. They know if they could do better. And I've known professional handlers that actually say to the judge, next time, I'm going to have the dog perfect for you. Now, I don't know if that's the best thing necessarily to say, but it's better than saying, what could I do better? You should know. And that's why you're here tonight, is because, and that's what we're going to talk about, is how to do better from the perspective of knowing your hallmarks and knowing the system. Okay, I got a little message here. Yeah, right. Okay. Known standard allows me to highlight them to the judges. Okay, good. Absolutely. I'm going to talk about your standard because you have a really unique standard, and you're going to talk about that a little bit, I think, Cindy. Yeah, exactly. Knowing what to emphasize and how to show your dog. Michelle has Bichons. Okay, let me come back down. Yeah, right. Too often these things happen. So is it Leo or Leo?
It's Leo.
Leo, okay. Leo says cardigan Welsh Corgi, the hallmark of the breed is their front. It's very unique. So I work on stacking my dog properly so they see its virtues. My frustration is there seems to be some misunderstanding of what the cardigan front is supposed to be like. I'm now on the judges ed committee. Yes. Truth to power. Go girl. Okay. Yep. Yep. Round bone, tight calf feet. Okay. I think I'm down at the bottom. Okay. So as a judge, and I hear that people ask this question all the time. I hear that. People ask this question all the time. Should I get a professional handler? But boy, if a judge ever said to an owner handler, you should hire a handler, oh, that would be the end of it. Hold on a second. Okay. And I don't see anybody that's trying to get in at this moment. All right. Right. So ask yourself, how many of you have said to yourself, maybe I need a professional handler? Right? Yeah, of course. Of course. It's natural when we don't know what we could do better, or we don't understand the power that we have in the knowledge, right? Knowledge is power. I'm not the first one to say it, but when you understand your standard in a whole new way, you're going to come out the other end feeling stronger, feeling more clear, feeling like you know what you're doing, and you're not anybody's victim here, right? You know what you're doing. Okay, Lee's magic formula to identifying key components of breed type. I had fun with this. So it improves your presentation, as someone has already pointed out, right? Creates a new awareness. So when you're really concentrating and focused on your breed standard and your key components of breed type, you start showing your dog in a whole different way. Sometimes people, as they start to really understand things, they stand up a little straighter, shoulders back and down. As my one of my early trainers used to say, show off your new bra. Really carry yourself, right? Carry yourself in a way that tells the judge, I know what I'm doing. I know what to show you. I don't need to ask, right? Okay. All right. And develops a new relationship with your dog. Now, that's probably surprising to you, or maybe not, but when you develop more knowledge about everything about your dog and how he best meets the standard, you love your dog more, and he gets it. He's like, yeah, I am a Great Swiss Mountain Dog, or I am a Bichon Frise, right? Right? Those dogs, they just, they cruise around the ring, right? Maybe not fast. I'm not saying fast, but cruising, definitely cruising at a particular cadence, particular speed. And they know who they are. The good ones know who they are. Okay, the good ones of any breed, right? Okay. So you might ask yourself, why are hallmarks so important to judges? Does anybody have a okay, good. Orlando 2021. Oh, Lori had, but when did you have that? When did you have a judge say that to you? Not recently. No. I don't believe that. So the question is, though, is that awful? I'm gonna challenge that. So I'm a judge, and I see a really nice dog, and I see somebody that doesn't know what they're doing. Now, I'm not saying you, Lori, but I see somebody that doesn't know what they're doing. I mean, really doesn't know what they're doing. And as a judge, I have no idea whether they're in the dog show mentor program or whether they are stumbling along one tidbit at a time. This is a nice dog. And if this person doesn't have the ability to have the dog win because of lack of knowledge, we don't know. I'm going to keep my mouth shut personally, but there have been times where I've been tempted to say it. This is a nice dog. And that's what I usually say. This is a nice dog. He deserves to be trained. I've said that to professional handlers. It's a nice dog. Deserves to be trained. You think that's mean? Is that mean? I don't think it is. I think it's honoring the dog. And that's what it's about. It's honoring the dog. I want to see that dog at its best. So the reason hallmarks are important to judges is because it tells me what to look for. If the dog doesn't have the key components of breed type, how do I know what it's supposed to look like? And I've got to pick some. I mean, the standard's long, right? I've got to pick some. I got to pick something to go by. And hopefully my mentor has said to me, oh yeah, round bone, egg front. Leo says, hallmarks are important for judges so it can make their first selection based on specifics of breed type. That is how Mrs. Clark posed it. Make your first cut on type and then weed out the sound ones. Or weed out the unsound ones, however you want to put it. But yes, I would say that's true. I think for me, that's a different conversation, Leo, a little bit. And I'll just get into it just for a minute with you. So I believe that movement is part of breed type. It is not a secondary characteristic. Breed type isn't just the silhouette, the head, the standing, the tail, right? It's more than that. It is how the breed moves. A Bichon does not move like a cardigan, right? They both have 4 legs, but a Frenchie does not single track. A bulldog has a roll. A pug is jaunty. A boxer and a Tibetan are elastic, right? A Beathan single track, light lifted movement, right? Not Hackney. Oh no, Hackney's ugly. Okay. Hackney is just for the min pins. So this is why hallmarks are important. And Rick Beauchamp said, in Solving the Mysteries of Breed Type, he said that he called them breed character, silhouette, head and expression, movement, and coat were the 5 key elements of breed type. And I have a little different, I agree with all these things. They're all important. And I love that breed character, it evokes a sense of essence for your breed, right? That Rottweiler standing there, alert, maybe a little aloof, right? That breed character is very different than the breed character, for example, of what have we got here? A Swissy. A Swissy's still a working breed, but it has a different character. It did guard its family on some level, but it wasn't a guardian breed per se, right, Lori? So so I think that just like movement is not a separate part, neither is breed character. You cannot separate breed character. That's why when we do spotlights on our breed in Dog Show Mentor, temperament is so often stated as a hallmark, and it often is, but it isn't always. But we have breed character because of why we had that breed, right? We had terriers to go after the vermin. We had toys as companions. We had working as a dog that worked with us on some level. Some breeds are more silhouette breeds than others. Boxer's a silhouette breed. Doberman's a silhouette breed. How do you tell the difference if they're painted black between a Dalmatian and a Rhodesian Ridgeback? They have almost the same standard. Rat Spaniel, aloof, aloof, aloof. There we go. Megan's here. Speaking of Rhodesian Ridgebacks, okay. So traditionally hallmarks refer to specific physical and behavioral characteristics that are either a single or a combination of defining characteristics, right, of a particular breed. Sometimes they're listed in the breed standard, and sometimes you have to dig for them. But as I said, hallmarks are used by judges to evaluate how well your dog conforms to its breed standard. It's not the only thing we look for, but it's part of our overall evaluation. And some examples are the long silky coat of the Afghan hound, right? the hippopotamus muzzle of the Chinese Shar-Pei, the Tibetan Terrier snowshoe foot, the unique head of a boxer. Although I don't know how many of you know that the boxer in the standard is not defined by its head. It specifically states that the judge should evaluate the whole dog and then give special attention to the head and then the movement. So it actually tells you they want the whole dog, but they want the head too. Okay. So what I say is there are 3 to 5 key points plus temperament, or as Rick said, breed, character, and movement, right? 3 to 5 key points. Now, sometimes it might be just movement is one of those key points, or the temperament is one of those 3 to 5 points. Like Newfoundland, for example, temperament is, a number 1 point for that breed. And coat, it's huge. And head, yes, but so there we are. We've got temperament as one of the 3 to 5 points. Movement, not as much. I mean, yes, they have to move. They might have a little bit of roll skin. Is everybody good on this? Okay. So how do you know what your points are in your standard? And, I'm going to say read your standard alone and with a coach. That could be your breed mentor. Have your Spira and Gilbert handy. Have your dog dictionaries right there handy, and start by defining the words you don't already know. Now, you might think that you know what every word in your standard means, but we're going to, here's Christine. We're going to start by bringing up my own standard, and then we'll go to one of yours. Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing and then reshare my breed standard. Welcome, Christine. Welcome, Megan.
Thank you.
All right, can everyone see the official standard of the Tibetan Terrier? Okay, so I'm just going to read this to you as I read every standard of every breed that I judge. So the Tibetan Terrier evolved over many centuries. So it's not a new breed, surviving in Tibet's extreme climate and difficult terrain. So what that tells me now is that it's not a new breed. It had to survive in the mountains of Tibet, and that evokes in me the idea that it had a lot of hair. And difficult terrain means that it had to be agile, and it had to have some kind of physicality that was unique to that terrain. The breed developed a protective double coat. Okay, so check that box. Compact size. Yeah, you don't want them too big because they're not going to eat too much. Unique foot construction. Aha. Okay, so I was right. That difficult terrain required unique foot construction and great agility. Okay, so it's telling me what my key components of breed type are. The Tibetan Terrier served as a steadfast, devoted companion in all its owner's endeavors. Well, okay, just pull up. Okay. Okay, sorry about that, Christine. The people who didn't sign up ahead of time, I didn't have any names to associate with. Okay. So as a judge, I'm looking at this and I'm saying, okay, when I look at this dog, I want to get the feeling that this dog can survive in the mountains of Tibet. And I'm thinking it's got a lot of coat. It's got a profuse coat. It's not too big. And it's really agile. Okay, so then we go to the general appearance, and it tells me, and I'm gonna go pretty fast through here, but it says general appearance, medium sized, profusely coated, powerful build, square, fall over the eyes, and the tail curled and falling over the back with large round. It tells me right here, I'm really lucky, right? I'm really lucky that I have a standard that tells me, because guess what? A lot of these standards, they don't tell you. They describe the dog, but they don't tell you these are the things we're looking for. So as a judge, I'm standing in the middle of the ring and I'm looking at which one looks like it could do the jobs that it probably had to do in the mountains of Tibet. Now, because of time, I can't really go through this whole standard, and I want to go through one of yours. But I do want to point out about gait. It says it's free, effortless stride. Okay, a lot of standards say that. With good reach and flexibility in the rear, full extension, height, blah, 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 same track approaching, single tracking, dog correct, moves with elasticity and drive, right? Elasticity and drive. So those little words that we read fast and are sort of hidden in our standards are pure gold. There are a lot of standards that say reach and drive. But what part of your standard gives your breed unique movement? And if it just has one line and it says good reach and drive, movement is probably not part of your hallmarks. Okay. So with that, I'm going to ask if anybody would like to pop their standard up. Does anybody want to do that? Come on, Leo. Do you have it? Oh, I can bring it up on
I've got the illustrated standard by me. It was produced by the parent club. But you want me to pull up you want us to pull up what's on the AKC site, the PDF?
Yeah, the actual standard, because here's the deal. Is that the illustrated standard is written by the parent club, but it is not the official standard. And I think that it's important to focus on what the standard actually says, rather than how some people in the parent club interpret the standard. And then once you have understood what the full standard means, then you can go to your mentors, look at the illustrated standard, and then come back to your regular standard, because this is the blueprint. not the illustrated standard.
Okay. Okay.
Great. All right. So can everyone see this?
Mm-hmm.
All right. So this general appearance is really an important first paragraph.
Yeah. Silhouette is really important.
Right. Overall silhouette, long in proportion to height. Low tail set, fox-like brush. General impression, a handsome, powerful, small dog capable of both speed and endurance, intelligent, sturdily built, but not coarse. So as a judge, I'm thinking handsome, well, that's in the eye of the beholder, isn't it? Powerful, okay, I get that. Small dog, capable of both speed and endurance. That's a little hard to tell in the ring unless I send them around 5 or 6 times and see which ones are panting. Intelligent, well, I mean, the only way I can tell if it's intelligent is if it's trained. If it's not trained, I have no idea if it's intelligent. Maybe the person didn't try to train it. Sturdily built, okay, I can get that, but not coarse. All right. So, you know, this first line here, low set, moderately heavy bone, and deep chest. Okay, I get that. I'll take that.
And in the breed, we try to emphasize the word moderately heavy. It's not a basset hound heaviness. It's a moderately heavy bone. So for the size of the dog, it's a heavier bone than one would expect otherwise.
Okay. I'm not sure that so as a
interesting. This is really interesting.
good. As a judge, I'm not sure I come into it with an expectation of what I would expect that this dog would have in terms of how heavy the bone is or how heavily built he is, but it does tell me that it's not coarse. And I'm thinking as a four-group judge, I can tell if they're coarse or not. So size is size. What's interesting about size is that different clubs have different ideas about what happens when the dog is oversized, right? Some of you are in clubs that are where the dogs are getting way too big. I'm in one of them.
Yeah,
And
it's happening in cardigans also.
yeah. And so you have to decide how important is that to you as a judge and as a breeder. Michael says, just ask Steve Keating. Yeah, right. So we're looking at some serious faults here, but we're not seeing any size disqualifications, right? So I'm thinking in my head, let me just double check that. I'm going to roll down to the bottom of the standard and see what the DQs are. Oh yeah, nope. No, nothing. Okay. Eye color, except in Merle's. Okay, good. Okay. So no DQs for size. So I'm thinking, well, you know, size is important, but it's not so important that they put a disqualification in. What else do you think we should look at here, Leo?
Oh, well, one of the things that we are losing in the breed is the proper head type. You're seeing a lot of heaviness in the head. And if you look at the standard, a good third of it is dedicated to the head, description of the head. And yet we see the wrong proportions on the headpiece, wrong ear set, ears too small, ears should be large, the wrong eye shape. the chiseling in the cheeks is a unique feature of the cardigan. So if you read through that whole thing and understand it, it's pretty specific as what the head is going to look like. And yet we see a lot of heavy, coarse heads that are being put up over the more refined dog. And
Okay.
it says refined according to it says it's not, the refinement is not a gender thing. It's about actually being an elegant looking dog.
Okay, I had not really thought about the cardigan being elegant. I'll admit that, but it is not in my big wheelhouse of breeds that I'm approved for. So
Sure.
I'm going out on a limb here, but that actually makes the standard even more important because I'm reading it as somebody who hasn't studied it extensively.
Right. And that's important for me too, to understand that most judges, all breed judges, what your take is on it and how.
It's, I mean, the only time I'm going to see it is either in Best in Show or if I'm in
Right.
NOHS.
Yeah.
But I have judged them and I
Mhm.
have seen some good ones.
Mhm.
And, I think I got 3 or 4 of them because somebody was sick and I took over their assignment. Maybe it was 5 or 6. I don't know. It was a few of them. So let's just look at what it says about the head, and then we're going to be out of time.
I'm
So
sorry.
the head should be refined in accordance with the sex and substance of the dog.
Yep. It should never appear so large or heavy, nor so small and fine to be out of balance with the rest of the dog.
Right. So this is really talking about balance.
Yes.
Okay. And so for me as a judge, I'm going to go, okay, so what we want is a dog that the head is in balance with the body. Okay, good. All right, I get that. What we find is that there are a lot of standards that use a lot of words to say a single thing. And so part of my job as a judge is to sift through that and pick out the words that pop out to me as being important.
Okay.
So balance is one of those words.
Mhm.
This whole thing of in accordance with the sex and substance. So that tells me that bitches are going to be more refined than dogs. Okay, that makes sense. Some breeds do that, some breeds don't. Okay, this breed does. So I'm looking at here, the expression is alert and gentle, watchful yet friendly. That's really a temperament.
Mhm.
It's more about temperament than just expression itself. The eyes, medium to large, not bulging, with dark eye rims, distinct corners, widely set. Okay, so I'm not going to whip by that widely set thing. I'm going to go, okay, well, if I see a cardigan with the head set on the front of the eyes, that close together, that's not right. So I'm thinking that's a good thing to look for. Now it talks about blue eyes permissible and blue merles. Otherwise it's a DQ. Okay, I want to know about a DQ. That's important. So we're going to do that, and we're going to actually mark this in red because it's a DQ. And that's what I personally do with my standards is I mark them, color code them. Ears. Okay, so I happen to know what a cardigan sort of looks like. So I'm thinking I'm already all about, I'm waiting to hear what the ears are supposed to look like. Large and prominent in proportion to the size of the dog. Okay, so this is again about balance, but it's also about large and prominent in proportion. So what that tells me is that the ears are going to be big. I want to walk up to that table and look and go, those are big ears.
Ideally.
Just like I wanted to go to Tibet and I want to see that profuse coat that I can get in my both hands, right? Slightly rounded at the tip, good strong leather. Okay, so I'm going to feel the leather. That's an important thing to know, that I'm going to feel the leather. Moderately wide at the base, moderately wide. That, I'm thinking, that doesn't really tell me, right? Carried erect, sloping slightly forward when alert. And I'm thinking, is that like a Nikita? Sloping slightly. No, it doesn't say it's cupped or hooded or no. Okay, that's not. When erect, tips are slightly wide of a straight line. Oh, now we got lines. Now we got geometry going. When erect, tips are slightly wide of a straight line drawn from the tip of the nose through the center of the eye.
Yeah. And you do see a lot of dogs that are in the top 5 even, that have ears that are way too upright.
Yeah.
So you want to see triangles. And I think that this is good feedback for my group of people, that you're going to want simpler language as a judge to be able to relate to almost immediately, rather than to try and decipher so much.
Well, it is wordy. It is wordy, but part of there's a certain joy, the joie de vivre, about taking a standard and teasing it apart and seeing the language and understanding the breed, and what the framers meant. But it does take some attention to do that. And of course, you want judges who will do that, but it could be a little simpler. And I think that the emphasis on the head is a little bit of a surprise to me, because it hasn't told me why you would have so much emphasis on the head. So it being a herding dog, I'm not totally sure why. I want a little more history, like in the Tibetan standard, it tells you the history.
Okay.
And it tells you these dogs are in the mountains of Tibet. It's difficult terrain. It's cold. They're going to freeze. They got to keep moving. So they have to have, these freakishly long digits. So do you see what I'm saying? So we don't have any, there's no way to understand here why this head is so important.
Well, what about the front then? If you scroll down, I know we're running out of time and I don't want to take up the entire amount.
We're going to have some feedback from the other people pretty soon.
So the 4 quarters, when it's talking about that front,
Okay.
which is the other big hallmark, because you've got, like you mentioned before, you already know that the egg shape and the chest is really important, that upper, leg has to wrap around the front, and then the pasterns come straight down with a slight turnout in front. So that's another hallmark in our breed. So I don't know if you wanted to get into that at all or not, but I found what you said about the head description to be really interesting.
Yeah, I'm going to take this another 15 minutes because we started late. So, so what I want to where I want to go with this, Leo, is that now, how is this, now that you hear a judge reading your standard?
Sure.
How is this going to affect how you present your dog in the ring in the future, if at all?
Well, knowing that they're not going to be probably understanding the importance of the correct headpiece, I guess I'm feeling a little frustrated, but you've given me some things to think about.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying that I don't understand that it's important to the framers of the standard, because as you said, I don't think it's a third, but I think it's a good portion of this. I don't think it's any bigger than well, forequarters and hindquarters together. Yeah, more than gait. But yeah, definitely. I think that I understand that it's important. I just don't know why.
And that's a big piece for you as a judge.
Yeah, I mean, I think it is for all
To
judges.
prioritize it, in order to prioritize it.
Right. I mean, we may prioritize it, but we may not. I mean, for me, as a judge that's not approved for this breed and having read this standard, I still feel that front assembly is your key number one.
Oh, absolutely.
Because it's unique and it's functional.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a breed that, as I understand it, needs that front to do the job, do a herding job, right?
It's not in the standard, but in that case, it's explained in other materials that it has to do with the terrain of Wales, where the cardigan came from is much more mountainous, and so they had that's the reasoning behind it anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's have some commentary here on what you all think. Does anybody have a comment or idea or suggestion or question?
Lee, in looking at the TT and the CARDI standards, I'm really impressed with the amount of specificity that goes into the standard. Looking at my own standard, I've always been frustrated that it's so vague that it just about can encompass anything. I've spent time on both standards, ironically, on TTs and CARDIs. I always liked TTs, and I spent a lot of time around CARDI people. So I wanted to be able to see whether I felt they had a good idea about their own breed. And Leo, you obviously know your CARDIs. It's interesting. So what do you think about some of the underdeveloped standards? I know certain aspect of my Tibetan Spaniel standard is less than impressive also in terms of specificity, whereas in the discussions with the National Club, there's a lot more discussion about breed type and different things. Take it from there.
So absolutely. I love the short standards because they're so challenging, but also the standards are short because the framers of the standard felt that anyone reading it should be enough of a dog person to be able to extrapolate the simpler standards. So standards like the Saluki, the Afghan, are two standards that come to mind. Most of the newer standards for the American Kennel Club are long and have been reformatted so that everyone is the same. And the only thing that's different is the length of the paragraph and the descriptions. And I do appreciate the Cardigan standard for saying that there is a differentiation between the sexes in terms of the refinements. But I don't think of the Cardigan as a refined breed. So it is
It's really interesting because it is supposed to be, it should
Right.
be refined in accordance with the sex and substance of the dog. Interesting. In fact, oh, I'm taking that home. I'm taking that home and I'll share that with my people because that's really interesting that it's not about the gender. That's interesting that that's your takeaway. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, well, it's not my only takeaway, but it is
I
an
know.
interesting piece of it. So, so Michael, to answer your question, I love the short standards. They generally tell me everything I need to know. Your standard is very similar to the Stafford standard, and of course they share a club together. So they are very similar, but they have their unique differences. So, you know, it's like the Norwich and the Norfolk standard side by side. You think that these dogs, you know, when you first walk up, if you don't know anything about terriers, you think, oh my gosh, well, these two terriers look just alike. Couldn't be farther from the truth. The standards are very different, describe different body length, the height, different measurements, different heads, different ears. It's remarkable. And Ed Bevan and I had a very good discussion about Norfolk's and about the differences in the standard at one time a number of years ago when I first started judging terriers. So, so is there anyone else who has a comment, question, want to keep going or want to close it down? It's 6 minutes after I did the Tibetan standard. So be ultra clear about what you're looking for. What are you looking for when you read a standard? What am I looking for when I am standing in the middle of the ring? Right? I want that Tibetan with that compact, athletic looking build. Right? That profuse coat, that fall over the eye, classic presentation. Do not present a Tibetan Terrier with that fall back. And you see it all the time. Top dogs falls away from the eyes. That is totally wrong. It says right in the standard, fall over the eyes. Should be presented like that. Now, after you've done the presentation on the table, you can take that dog and brush that hair back or pull it back with your hand. Go on the down and back, go around. But when you have that dog presented, it should have that fall. Oops. You know, this is how we read the standard. What are the DQs? Is the eye shape important? I mean, most of the standards describe the eye shape, but how important is it in that breed? In a terrier, it's very important. Brussels Griffon, the eye should have a human-like expression, right? You know, what about color? Rhodesian Ridgeback, it's a whole colored dog, and it's one color. I mean, it's a range in that color, but it's one color. You can have a little white on the feet, a little white on the chest, not more. Proportion, is that important? You know, the German Shorthair Pointer standard has in it, dog may be square or slightly longer. Well, I guess it's not important then because it can be either. Yeah, put away your hairspray, Michael. You know, my eyes should be glued on those dogs. I want my eyes glued on your dog. Show me the things that I want to see. Show me those hallmarks. If I've bothered to read your standard and identify what's important in your breed, I want you to show them to me. You can ask yourself, what words are repeated? Where are you, Lori? How many times? Oh, I'm not going to ask you, but I will say, she knows how many times. the word strong is in her standard. She knows. She counted. How many times is the term medium or moderate in the Siberian Husky standard? Somewhere between 17 and 20. I lost count. Okay, so those are things that are important to you and should be important to the judge. Medium or moderate. Siberian should never be looking like an Alaskan Malamute. Never. This is a dog that has to run 60 miles, pulling a light sled. What do the words tell you are important? You have to really dig deeply into your standard. A lot. And hopefully with somebody at your elbow. Maybe that person knows more than you, but what if you sit down with somebody who knows less than you do? And they ask a question, what about that word there? And you're like, let's look it up together, right? The words will tell you, but it doesn't have to be somebody like me. It can be somebody who knows less, somebody who knows more. But I have gone over a lot of standards. Okay. Cindy, can I ask you a question? Okay, so I would like you to name one hallmark of your breed and how you present it to the judge. How do you let the judge know?
Well, I think for our breed, it's the rusticness of the dog. The dog should not be groomed in any way. But what I usually do when I present my dog, he is rustic. I usually highlight his athletic build, his strong neck sloping down from the top of his head into his shoulders, and then the strength of his rear. And that's basically when we're on the line doing a last review, those are the things that I highlight when the judge is going down the line.
Okay. That code is very important. Okay, we did this. We did
I
this.
just want to give Cindy a little shout out. She does a very nice job presenting her Spanish water dogs. Still a couple things to clean up, but a fine job. And her dogs are lovely.
All right. So Dog Show Mentor is here for you, for owner handlers. Little shout out for my Jumpstart program. It's starting this year. It is a standalone program, so it can be lifted out and you can start whenever you want. And so we're about to close. It's been a quiet evening. I would love to hear though, what sparkled for you. And what that means is what stood out for you as being something that you can take with you. One word or phrase is good. And go ahead and unmute yourselves.
It was great feedback.
Good. Thank you. Cindy.
I don't think I can wrap it up in one word, but you really need to know your standard. Pull out what's important and learn how to highlight it in your dog.
Good. Okay. How about you, Megan?
Similar thing. I wrote down dig deeply into the standard.
All right. Lori, go ahead.
One thing I liked is when you said about looking at the silhouette, like if you can't see the color of the dog, looking at the silhouette, that is that you could tell the difference. So that's kind of interesting. Thanks.
Mhm. Michelle Schmidt, are you here? MIA. Oh, she's
I
here.
am. I was your 3 to 5 key points. I was just looking at I'm just looking now at the Bishan standard and going through and just thinking, what are the words that I would highlight to really show off my Bishan?
Awesome. I love it. Thank you. Haley, are you here?
Yes, know your standards forward, backwards, inside and out to accentuate their virtues.
All right. Anne Marie, are you here?
I'm here.
All right.
Finally.
Yeah.
It's been a challenge. So I catching the last half, but obviously just listening to a few of the discussions is the standard. As everyone's saying, inside and out, know it by heart, envision your dog as you read that standard and see what jumps out at you as you're reading it that it pertains to your dog.
Envision your dog. I like that. I like that.
And I'm saying, and even like with everyone else's standards, I'm reading their standards. I got that big book and I can read the standards and I'm visualizing that particular breed as I'm reading it. It's like putting a puzzle together
Mhm.
as I'm reading the standard and looking at all the parts of it. I'm visualizing that dog, that each piece till I get to the end of that standard.
Right, exactly. That's exactly right. It's like, okay, I'm trying to, when we started out with the cardigan standards, like, okay, I'm trying to figure out in my head what this dog looks like.
Right. Color, unless it's a solid color, but yeah, I think it's just pretty cool. You just take a standard by and not looking at an illustration and just reading that. And if you know the dogs and you just visualizing as you're reading it and you picture that in your head.
Great, thank you. All right, Michael, bring it home.
Two quick points. I think
One.
one of the things, one,
One.
well, one of the critical things that I find a lot of dog people, in my 2 minutes of experience, don't really understand are the finite pieces of structure as it relates to the standard. For example, when it talks about, appropriate rear structure, or in the case of the Cardi, the egg-shaped front, knowing, being able to bring it home personally and look at your dog critically and saying, is this what this is supposed to look like? The TT, I look at TTs and I want to look at the feet. I want to see those snowshoe feet. But I get to spend a lot of time with people evaluating litters. And like I said, people who've been in dog sports for many years, I'm like, well, you've got a lot of good points here, but you kind of miss what the rear structure is supposed to be like. It's like, so in order to put the pieces together, the other piece you need is knowledge of overall structure.
All right. Knowledge. Yeah. Yeah. So So I want to say that if we go back to our first slides, where we talked about this, can you all now assuredly believe that at the very least that you can find this in your standard and effectively find these in your standard? And do you feel like you want to go back into your standard and read every word of it when we get off of here tonight? Or maybe you've already done that while I'm talking. I'll just look in the chat. Mary Ann says, oh yeah, there she is. Okay.
Actually, I think you get to read your standard before you show every time. Every time.
I agree with that. And I mean, it depends on how many breeds I'm judging, but I try to read the standards on the plane as I'm going to shows that I'm going to judge. But I think that the big piece here, Cindy, is not just to read your standard, but to really seek to understand your standard at a deeper level every time. So it's not the frequency with which we read it, it's the depth that we come to it with. Does that make sense? Yeah, okay. All right. All right, I'm going to leave you with that. Lori, I don't think for some reason you're not showing up here. I'm sorry. Lori Stevens, I think is your last